This is Carl Reed, and you're here for Real Talk with Coach Reed Live. I got a special guest on, a guy I've known for a while, my guy Byron Devinner, the head coach and program director of the Southern Express 7-on-7 program, one of the top 7-on-7 programs nationally, and he's based down there out of Birmingham, Alabama. Byron, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Carl, thanks for having me on today. I really appreciate it. Love your show, what you do for the kids.
I want to ask you, I'm going to throw you a fastball right down the middle to start the show off. What's going on at the University of Alabama? Is Alabama done? Has Kirby Smart left Nick Saban behind in the SEC? Is Alabama finished? Is it over? I've heard Paul Feinbaum say this week that this is the worst coaching job Nick Saban has ever done. Is the Crimson Tide finished?
Well, here's the thing I'm answering that. Probably the one person that touched on it and is hating right now that those comments are being made is Lane Kiffin. Because like Lane said, all you think you're doing is putting fuel to the fire. And Nick is one of those guys that just like Kirby, Kirby, is one of his proteges. And just like how they were saying last week about Georgia didn't have a chance, they jumped Tennessee #1. All that did is put fuel to the fire. And both those guys are so competitive. And this week of practice, I guarantee you, is focus, attention to detail, and they're locked in. Is the dynasty over? The one thing about down here is you think about you go anywhere else, you go 11-2, 10-2, whatever. That's a great year. But in the state of Alabama, you lose 2 games. Like you said, Bama hadn't lost 2 games on the Coach Saban since 2010. That's a failed program. That's in the eyes of everybody else. Me, myself, is dynasty over? No, it's not over. They lost 2 games, 4 points. Now, was there some things that happened in those games that you questioned? Yeah, it was. Coverages, everybody's at Bill O'Brien's neck. I understand that. But, Carl, here's my point about it. How many times have you played a football game and you lost by scoring 49 points? That, to me, is the OC is doing his job. The defense is not DC is not getting the guys in place. I think a lot of this stuff has to do with NIL. I mean, you're sitting here, you got guys on your team that's making more money than assistant coaches. And, the one thing that I see in myself, there's a lot, about the University of Alabama. That scripted A, goes a lot with a lot of players that's played there before. And you see all the former players speaking up and saying things. And what some people on the outside don't understand what they're saying. But what they're basically saying is you have nobody walk around with that A that's branded on them in the positions that are off the field. Now, like, say, the weight room. There's a position, those people don't understand, those weight room guys affect your program more so than the head coaches. Because during the off season, those are the guys that are with your players, not the coaches. You don't have on the sideline. If you remember, Carl, think about this now. Let's go back 2009, 2012, 2015. Bama had a hype man on the sideline. He was the head strength and conditioning coach, Scott Cochran.
So is Scott Cochran that big of a loss for the Bama program? Because
yes,
when you got to go, because the fallout from him leaving was that he wanted to be the special teams coach. And coach would let him be the special teams coach. So
exactly.
Was not letting him be the special teams coach a mistake?
I say yeah, and I say yeah because there's the energy that he brought. I mean, you look at the energy. Now, I've been over in Georgia, and there's the energy that he brings. That's the mentality is getting those guys, riled up. Just like Wilson Love at Oregon, who's on the Cochran, the same way. I mean, you got to have those guys, that energy, and I think the brand too. There's not a lot of if you look down even on the field, there's not a lot of Bama on the field, and
yeah, but let's look at this though, Brian. Let's look at this. When I watch Bama play this season, and you talk about the offense, and I'm gonna say really the last 2 seasons, it doesn't look like it looked when Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian was calling the plays. And even last season, right, when Jamison Williams wasn't in there, they looked really, really bad. It's not the same play calling. It's not the same creativity, right? So, like, some of that got to fall on O'Brien, right? He is the OC. It's not the same. He has a generational quarterback right now. And the offense has been inconsistent at best.
Well, I would say that, and you look at it, you got a good point there. What you said, and I got to ride with you on that. That was a great point because you haven't seen, the longest pass play this year. I want to say like 53 yards. That was the Kobe Prentice Arkansas game, and you got guys that can stretch the field, but the problem is those guys that can stretch the field, that can get out there, your 4-3 guys, both of them are true freshmen. Tyler Harrell has been hurt he got there and stuff. He's supposed to be that guy that's supposed to be,
big disappointment this year so far, Tyler Harrell.
Yeah, he has. Jermaine Burton has. Those guys are supposed to be the difference. I mean, this is a year that, how the portal really has benefited Bama over the years. The portal has not benefited them that way. And you're right what you're saying. The play calling has been different. You haven't seen those shots down the field. I mean, those shots down the field in the past, they were there. I mean, what is the Jamison Williams? What is the Mechie? All those guys, because Mechie led the team in reception because of the fact that everybody keyed on Jamison. I mean, you couldn't double Jamison. And then you couldn't double bracket Mechie. This year, the receivers aren't getting any separation. I mean, and I just don't see.
So when I look at it, the way I see it is the transfer portal has leveled the playing field. They're not able to stockpile talent like they were in the past because guys are going to leave and they want to play. So
exactly,
you used to have one room with T.J. Yeldon and Derrick Henry and Kamara and all of them guys in one room. You're not experiencing that anymore. So from a standpoint of the transfer portal and not NIL being the equalizer, how can Bama still reign supreme in this environment with those things going against them? You can't keep the players and wait for them to develop anymore. They leaving. NIL, you're not spending more money than some of your competitors, which is surprising to a lot of people, but you're not spending them. So how does the ship get righted? How do you stay on top if now, because of rule changes, everybody else is allowed to be on a similar playing field than you?
I think, here's my thing. It's going to have to start this offseason. I mean, I know O'Brien wants, to be a head guy in the NFL, but I don't think the timing is right for that. But it's going to have to, they're going to have to make some changes in the staff. I mean, they're going to do some changes that are made in the staff. You're going to have, a lot of your go-getters, out there. And quiet is kept, what you just said, NIL, transfer portal, it's benefiting. It's benefiting a lot of programs. And, whereas, you can sit here now and you can't even worry about, okay, I'm going to go out here and get this kid. When you're in Texas, I don't care if you're at SMU. You got a bigger play. You got a bigger a pool to draw from than anywhere else.
So let's talk Tennessee for a second. University of Tennessee had riding high after they beat Bama. Get dismantled a little bit by Georgia. Is the Tennessee program ready to be a consistent player again? Are they ready to consistently compete for SEC championships again? Or is this just a one-off because they got a great quarterback?
I'm gonna say it's a one-off because they got a great quarterback, and everybody. I'm gonna throw something at you. Everybody say their wins have been great wins. Okay, they beat Bama. Where they beat Bama at? At home. They beat Tennessee. They beat Pittsburgh on the road. Pittsburgh was ranked. Now the crowds in Pittsburgh ain't like the crowds in anywhere else. They play LSU at 11 o'clock. Now you done been to Baton Rouge yourself. Them people in Baton Rouge are not getting up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening.
Whoa,
nobody.
Whoa,
nobody.
Time out. But they won the games. This sound like hate right now. This sounds like hate.
I'm gonna take it to where I'm gonna take it to.
Okay.
If you watch, I'm gonna bring it back. What I'm saying is not, because if you look at that stadium LSU game, there was a lot of empty seats. Okay, now Saturday over in Athens, and I was there. I done been in Athens a lot of times. I have never heard that stadium so loud. If you saw, Tennessee had trouble. They were getting back-to-back false starts. It's worked out this year for Tennessee. The schedule part has benefited them tremendously. Now, I'm not going to say they ain't got great players. They got some good players, and I'm going to say that. But the schedule has really helped them out, give them a lot of home field advantage, because that's the equal playing field. That's just like, I'm going to tell you, and I've seen this happen too, SEC championship and national championship with Georgia and Alabama. The playing field was separated because you got 15% Bama in there. You got 85 in Georgia in there.
I'm hearing excuses, B. I'm hearing excuses.
But I'm gonna tell you.
I'm hearing excuses.
But here's the difference. I'm gonna tell you. Georgia is a better football team than people gave them. Oh, they struggle with Missouri. Oh, they struggle here. Kirby Smart. They woke up. They woke a dead horse up. I've been knowing Kirby for a long time. One thing about Kirby is, I knew the worst thing that the committee did was jump Tennessee ahead of Georgia. That was the worst thing you do, because Kirby is like Nick, that mental part of it, and don't challenge them. So now you don't challenge Kirby, you don't challenge him to put him in a situation, because you think about it, if they had lost to Tennessee, they were out the playoffs.
Hey, listen, man. Tennessee went on the road and beat LSU at LSU. And now we talking about, it was a morning game. It was a morning game. They beat Bama. They've had a home advantage for 16 years and couldn't beat Bama. Now they finally beat them, and we moved the goalpost. Say, they only beat them because it was at home. Bama been curb stomping Tennessee for 16 years.
Well, I'm going to say something too. Heupel did something that, believe it or not, the Bama game, they didn't know how to adjust. And I'm going to tell you what it was. Because they tried to do it against Georgia. People are using too much of that analytics as, what you should do in these situations instead of playing football. Because I'm going to give you something to you. So Heupel looked at analytics. Okay, yeah. Analytics say this. So more likely they're going to do this. They put the inside receiver. Now think about how this was. If you get out there to DC and look at this, you're like, what the heck? Inside receiver on the numbers. The outside receiver on the outside of the numbers. Well, analytics say play outside left, but my thing is why? You're giving up the slant. You're giving up the post. You're giving up the vertical. You're on the hip now on the vertical. Mm-hmm. So what Tennessee do? the slant, the post, the vertical, and they matched it up on Bama's worst coverage DB, and two, they couldn't run with it. So now coming to Georgia, they tried the same thing. What did Kirby do? What anybody would normally do? You play the inside leverage. You throw the slant, they break it, they jump it, they break it up. You don't have those options no more. And I think that I ain't taking nothing from them this year. Tennessee had a great year. Do I think they're back? I'm gonna say no, because they'll listen what I'm saying. They got a lot of fifth year, and they got a lot of they're senior heavy this year. Now you're saying they're a junior heavy or sophomore heavy. I would go ride with that. They're senior heavy, so next year is gonna be a rebuilding year. Because think about it, Hooker's gone. Next year is gonna be a rebuilding year. A lot of those Hyatt is gonna leave early for the draft. Those guys are gone. I think this year is one of those years that, if everything's falling in place for them, they got the breaks that they need to be successful. Poor coaching job in Bama that last minute to not leave. Instead of you kicking the game-winning field goal, you miss it, you go to overtime, you leave too much time on the clock and let them go down. You play loose coverage. Now you go. Now I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna say this right here. They're a good team. This year's Georgia team, and this is a thing that sets Kirby Smart different. All the guys that he lost last year to the draft, this team this year could be just as good. Because Reed, you do realize they're playing without the starting linebacker who's gonna be a first round pick.
Big. Come on. That Georgia team last year was generational. Mm-hmm. That defense was generational. Now, you done got on here today. I done brought you on my show today. And you done got on here and you done said that Tennessee, right, LSU wasn't a good win because it was a morning game. And that it was a road win. You done said the Pitt game don't matter because Pitt, they crowd. They beat Alabama at home. No big deal. People ain't beat Alabama nowhere, right? Now you saying that this Georgia team might be better than last year's Georgia team. I don't know, man. It sounds a little bit like you an Alabama homer and you giving credit only to Bama and Kirby and them who come from Bama. It sounds like hate me. When people see this and they get in my comments, they going to say, Reed, your guess was hating on Tennessee. The Rocky Top people going to be on you.
I'm telling you, Reed, that Georgia team this year, and I'm going to tell you why I say it. The Georgia team last year, because your quarterback leads your program. And that team last year is better, and I'm going to tell you the juggernaut is. The juggernaut is right here. They not only have one DC, two DCs, they got three DCs on the defensive side of the ball. Then you look at their quarterback last year, Stetson Bennett. Everybody like, man, they cannot win with Stetson Bennett. They can't win with him. This year, that dude got it's like he got blood. He got blood in his veins. He got blood, but that dude is like
ice in his vein. He got ice
in his vein. Yeah. That dude is. It's on another level. My thing right here. Why ain't nobody talking about him for the Heisman?
That's a reasonable thing. I'm gonna ask you one more thing, then we got to get out of here. Can LSU beat Georgia in the SEC championship game?
I'm gonna say no, and I'm gonna say here's my reason why.
Hold on, before you say this, I want to let you know that I got a lot of LSU fans that follow me. So before you answer this, I want you to think about, all right, no hating, keep it 100. Does LSU have a chance to beat Georgia in the SEC championship game?
My answer to that question is going to be no. But let me hear me out though. No, if JD cannot sit here and use his legs, because people don't realize he can throw the football. You know, people don't realize that, but the kid can throw the football. But he's gonna have to beat Georgia with his legs. If JD Daniels can run the football, if he can rush for 70 yards against Georgia, they beat Georgia. If he can't run against Georgia, they're in trouble. And so the reason I'm saying that is I look at what they did, how they did with Hooker this week. They honestly made Hooker look like an average quarterback. Right now, though, Daniels is playing better than anybody in the SEC. He's playing. I mean, I think early on, it was a get to know each other situation and stuff. Because you remember that Florida State game, you know, with Butte, I mean, not getting no touches or whatever. They know who they got to go to now and whatnot. You know, you got at LSU, you got to feed 7. No matter who wins at 7, they got to feed 7. So I think
Kirby Smart was the DC at Alabama when they really struggled with running quarterbacks. Guys like Chad Kelly, guys like Johnny Football, right? Guys like Deshaun Watson. And I'm not saying that Jaden Daniels is as good as any of those guys. Well, he's better than Chad Kelly was, but you know
what? That's why I say
Jaden Daniels can put a lot of pressure on Georgia with his legs. He can change the game.
Yeah, that's why I said if he rushes for 70 yards, they can beat Georgia. That's why I said that. If they can sit here, they cannot play. The problem is they can't play man-to-man against them. If they play man-to-man against them, they run everybody off. Now you leave that box to where he can move around, you're in trouble. Because he's explosive. I mean, he done turned a 30-yard run into a normal quarterback. It may be 15. It's 30 for him. So I think right now, and you know, if they beat them, they're gonna make history. They'll be the first 2-loss team in the playoffs.
Ooh. Listen, we're gonna get out of here right now on that note. Byron, tell everybody where they can follow you at on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at Byron_Devinner, or you follow us at @_Southern Express, and Instagram is at Southern Express Football.
All right, guys, this is Real Talk with Coach Reed Live.